The Empire getting rid of the clone troopers never really made much sense to me. It would be one thing to diversify your army by recruiting normal people, but it's another thing entirely to phase clones out almost completely. The Jango Fett clones are established as one of the most elite, disciplined fighting forces in the galaxy. So why would the Empire ever get rid of them? In both expanded universe material and Disney-era Star Wars, we're given a few lore explanations. The main ones are: 1. Someone could develop a biological weapon targeting the clones. 2. The Kaminoans might turn against the Empire. And 3. Maintaining a clone army is too expensive. I don't think any of these reasons actually hold up under scrutiny. Let's start with the biological weapon argument. In theory, sure, some group potentially targeting a genetically identical army sounds like a weakness. But in practice, almost no one in the galaxy would realistically have the knowledge, equipment, time, and resources to develop a targeted bioweapon like that. The number of groups capable of pulling this off is extremely small. And ironically, the one organization that definitely would have the resources and infrastructure to do this is the Empire itself. So the idea that some outside force could easily exploit this vulnerability feels more like a hand-wavy excuse than a believable strategic concern. Now let's move on to the Kaminoans supposedly turning against the Empire. Everything we're shown about Kaminoans suggests they are ruthlessly professional and loyal to their contracts. They're not ideological revolutionaries, they're businessmen and scientists. If you pay them to produce soldiers, they produce soldiers. The only reason they'd turn against the Empire is if the Empire did something unbelievably cartoonishly evil to them first. And when we do see this happen in stories like The Bad Batch and some expanded universe material, it often feels less like organic storytelling and more like the writers forcing a betrayal to justify removing clones from the setting. Finally, there's the financial argument that clones are simply too expensive to maintain. This one might be the weakest justification of all. We're talking about a galaxy-spanning authoritarian regime with near-total control over resources, industry, and taxation. The idea that the Empire would hesitate at the cost of maintaining even a division or specialized corps of elite clone troopers is hard to take seriously. If real-world governments can afford elite military units, then a literal galactic empire shouldn't hesitate over the budget required to maintain a small but highly effective clone force. Yes, clones cost more to produce than conscripted soldiers, but the Empire also has vastly more wealth, infrastructure, and industrial capacity than any real-world nation. And this brings up the biggest contradiction. Sidious was able to secretly bankroll the creation of a massive clone army before the Clone Wars, while operating in the shadows. But now that he's emperor of the entire galaxy, we're supposed to believe that maintaining even a fraction of that force is suddenly too expensive. That doesn't add up. So what's the real reason clones disappear? The honest answer is probably a simple one. The writers seem to realize that if the Empire retained a large force of elite, highly trained clone troopers, the Rebel Alliance wouldn't stand much of a chance. Stormtroopers, as they're often portrayed, are less disciplined, less competent, and more prone to failure. That weakness is narratively necessary for the underdog story of the rebellion to work. So the clones have to go, not because it makes perfect in-universe sense, but because the story of the original trilogy and the broader rebel narrative depends on the Empire being less efficient and less overwhelming than it realistically would be with an elite clone army still in service.